Welcome to my program, Bashy's Corner. We normally take those issues which now mainstream media doesn't want or doesn't care. And to prove my point, later you will meet our guest and you will see why I say that. Few months back, I was watching DR2 program on the issue of some imams and why there was so much silence from the Muslim communities themselves. Why there were so few voices among the Muslims who were explaining things. The man I saw first time talking about the issue in such a calm and balanced and serene way that I was really very impressed. So I sent him an email. I wanted to talk to him and listen to his opinions. Over the years, I have been talking with politicians, academics, journalists, and so-called Islam experts. Of course, on the issues of minority rights, freedom of speech, failure of integration, and above all, Islam and Muslim communities in Denmark. But what I saw that evening in TV impressed me a lot. And I'm happy that the gentlemen, after a long discussion, have accepted to come to my program, and I'm sure that our talk would be very beneficial, not only for Michael or for me, but for our viewers too. So welcome to my program, Michael.
Thank you.
I'm glad that I could persuade you to come for this interview. Let me start by asking a bit about you. You are administration director and communication advisor at a PR organization or company called Aspecta. But you also take part in societal debates. How come these two things, do they fit?
Well, yes, they do. My professional background, and let me start by thanking you for the introduction. That it makes me blush almost.
Thank you.
I'm a communication advisor, communication specialist. I work at Aspecta, which is a consultancy. We give advice to both private companies and public institutions about their communication, and that is my professional background, my educational background as well, and I've done that for almost 25 years now. Apart from that, I have always been very active in different associations and organizations, working with different kinds of international issues. Often I've been very active in international youth exchanges. I've worked in the Danish Youth Council, and I've also been associated to a number of associations in the Danish Church, Folkekirken.
Yes.
Where I was a member of the Church Council, the menighedsråd, as we say in Danish,
Yes.
At a church in Copenhagen for 10 years. So and that has sort of been my passion, but it's difficult to make a living from that. So my background combines the sort of my professional work as a communication advisor, and then my passion for the important work taking place in the civic community.
May I ask you, are you a practicing Christian?
Yes, I am. I am a practicing Christian. I go to church regularly, and a number of the associations I'm in, where we always start every meeting with a song or prayer. So that's quite natural for me to practice that in my everyday life. Yes.
Wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. I'm not religious, but I think it's wonderful that people have this commonality if they can sit down. Now, the question comes that what kind of societal issues, because you live in the society, you have a very keen observation, I saw you speaking. What are those issues which you are interested in the society?
At the moment, I'm quite, I'm concerned about the sort of the way that we are pushing, that society in general is pushing sort of the definitions of democratic values, of how we debate, how we talk about each other, and I don't like that. To that extent, I'm very liberal in the sense that to defend your freedom of speech and sort of the core democratic values, and I don't like sort of the way we are talking. So that's one thing, and then the other is that there's which is linked to it, I guess. There's a lot of more selfishness going on. The solidarity in society is becoming smaller. I see that I'm the chairman of the board at our local school, which is a private school. Yes. In my community, and
your children go there.
My children go there, and what we see is that sort of among the parents there, sort of there is more and more focus on their own child and less focus on sort of the common good, but more we want this for our child. Sort of a more demanding culture, a more selfish culture, and so those issues sort of concern me right now, because I believe we. As a society, we need a certain social cohesion to sort of to be what we are, and that concerns me at the moment, really. And but that's something everybody has to.
Exactly, that was my question too, because I came in 1970 as a tourist from Canada, so. What I fell in love with was exactly what was there, the solidarity. People smiled, if somebody was standing there in a bus, you gave the space and asked the gentleman or lady sit down. And living 46 years in Denmark, I can also feel this change. When I say that to many Danish politicians, they say, you are just too sensitive. And I'm happy that a man of your background also feel, that these changes have happened. And somehow it's not very positive, this solidarity.
No, it's not positive, and it's something that goes across. It's not only a matter of racism. It's not only a matter of xenophobia. It goes across sort of the way we talk
to each other.
To each other, and just an example of that you might find funny is that one of my parents, one of my father's cousins, my father died some years back, but one of my father's cousins, she married a Pakistani engineer back in the mid-60s, 1965, 1966, around that, and they moved to Denmark, and there was no problem. They got 3 children, some grand cousins of mine, and we grew up together, and it was never an issue, because they were a mixed family, but it was never an issue. They have told me that over the past 10 to 15 years, they have seriously considered taking their mother's name, because their last name was their Pakistani father's last name, and it has never been an issue over the past 10 or 15 years, even though they're born and raised in Denmark.
And they're Danish.
And they're Danish, and their mother is Danish. It started to become a problem for them to have a Pakistani last name, and I think it's of course it's you cannot
generalize
from that, but I don't like sort of Denmark sort of close, we are closing more and more, and I don't like that, because the world around us is doing all the opposite. But it's an international trend. It's a global trend, and it's.
You're liberal, and understand that. Later we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
In a meeting with Bertel Haarder many years back, when the party won the first election, he had a meeting with me for 35 minutes. Wanted to ask a few things. And I explained to him the thing he wanted to ask me, but after 35 minutes, he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Bashy, I don't care what you tell me. Denmark is a tribe. And so I said, then why you are asking me? Then I cannot be part of this tribe. I mean, making a beautiful country like Denmark, a cosmopolitan country, into a tribe, I mean, it says a lot. And my own son, I have a son with a Danish lady, he have changed his last name also, because he's working in a very big company, and he said it's not conducive to have a name like that. And I was hurt. But anyway, it's a private thing. In your bio, which I read, it says that you cannot help but give advice and guidance to most of your clients. Is it because you are a humanist, or why you have such a burning desire to help people?
No, well, it's
Was it a joke?
No, it's not a joke. It's what it's sort of a more or less successful attempt. Others have to judge whether it's successful to sort of to understate a little bit what it is that we are doing, and being an advisor or working as an advisor, then sort of that is what we have to do, because when people call us, then it is because they want advice. They want our answers. Sort of if they have an issue, a problem, a challenge, then they want our opinion about how to solve it. And then there are many ways of going about that. And we have some people, they are very. So they ask questions and say, "What do you think?" And I, it's sort of with a little sort of blink in the eye. I said, "Well, I'm happy to tell you what I think and what is my opinion." And so it's a bad joke, basically.
But it also, I'm sure it put at ease the people who come for professional advice, and then you give them also an advice which maybe they can use when you go to a doctor. If he say, "Okay, what is your problem?" and give you medicine, that's it. But there are some doctors who talk to you.
If you ask your spouse, I think anybody could ask their spouse at home, saying, "Well, couldn't you just stop giving me advice all the time and just accept me for who I am?" And sort of, so it's also a matter of illustrating that a little bit. That we do. I cannot have problems not saying what I think.
Well, it's wonderful. I understand that you also have a thorough knowledge of Danish People's Church, as you from that, and other church organization. You have been advising them too. Have churches a need for advice from you?
Well, of course they have. Okay. No, of course they have. Well, and the situation is more complex than that. Because if we look at the Danish church, it's in a funny way. It is sort of the definition of Danish democracy, local democracy, because it is completely autonomous. The government, even though there's a minister for the church, it's Bertel Haarder, by the way. There are many things he can't decide. So there's huge autonomy in the church, and you have 2,200 local parishes in the Danish church.
And they have their own board?
Each of them has a church council, a church council, which is elected so that every 4 years there is an election.
By the congregation?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The churches are our biggest democracy, so to say, but still has a lot of challenges, because if you're baptized, then because you become a member by being baptized, so the church struggles with participation and get enough participation, and that is what.
Is it because of bad PR? What is it?
It's because
why
of
the number of
because of convenience, comfort among the Danes. Sort of religion doesn't have the same. Because there are not as many practicing Christians. So there's a term in Danish called kulturkristen, cultural Christian, which basically means that most Danes, the tribe, as you say, that the tribe accepts that sort of the Christian fundamental values that we are based on. But apart from that, sort of the church is a convenient institution for when you need to get your children baptized, for your weddings, for your for your funerals and so on, and then for Christmas, and then so it's so a lot of churches, I wouldn't say struggle, but they have to work hard to get people to go there, and simply to get people to go there on Sundays, to go there on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the activities, and that is what sort of my sort of mission is with the church, is to try to inspire local churches to apply some more modern, you might say, modern ways of thinking about communication, about PR, about how you branding, how you simply make yourself visible in an attractive way. Many churches are very good at it, and a lot could still need inspiration to do it, because the people who are there are amateurs like you and me. So they are not professionals, and they.
One of my good friend, I'm sure you know him, so Bishop Kelholm. You know, he's retired now. He used to say, he was chairman of a board, I was member. He used to say that we Christians should be thankful to Muslims who came to Denmark and awoke our Christianity instead of, you know, like a competition, but at least we should be understanding that, you know. As a communication expert, can you say that the nature of debate in Danish society have changed now?
Yeah, I think as we talked about, before, so the tone of voice has become harsher, and it's more bipolar. You know, it's black or white. It's
There's no nuance.
Yeah, you know, many years ago, sort of the former American president George W. Bush. I think perhaps he's even the father of the debate that we're having at the moment. It's my own interpretation, but he's the one who pronounced the famous words after after 9/11. He said, either you're with us or you're against us, and it was sort of very black-white rhetoric, which was adopted by the Danish government at that time, but which has become sort of very dominant in Danish society as well. And you can just, if you look at our general elections, then even though we have 10 parties to choose from, 9 of whom are in parliament, then in the media it's red or blue, and it becomes a problem if as soon as one of the parties in either the right wing or the left wing, if they think differently from the others, and then you could say, but why not have those more nuanced and balanced ways of looking at it? So it's something that's been going on for many years, and the media contribute to it because they want black or white. There's never.
Is it because of money or ideology? Why do they do that?
For because the media they drive on conflict, and it's easier to say yes or no, you know, white or black. Everything in between is more difficult to understand, and then also the amount of media. There's less time, so you need to understand things quickly, and then it's A or B, and there's never a C or a D or an E, so it's a development over time.
But one thing that I have noticed very clearly is that in today's societal debates in Denmark, you know, all societal problems, Islam is dragged into that, you know, and why do they frame this debate, societal debates, in reference to Islam?
Depends on who can see whom you're pointing at, whether it's politicians, whether it's media. A lot of it has to do with the same thing as we talked about before. That sort of it's either A or B, and then also for some political parties it's you need a scapegoat, you need somebody to blame. Because, and it's easy because if you look at our wonderful tribe, as you described it before, then you need somebody to blame for what is for anything that is not working as it used to do, and then Islam comes in as a very convenient scapegoat. Because
but Michael, Islam is not an ethnicity. It's not a nationality. It's a religion, and that's practiced by different ways.
Exactly. But when you make a scapegoat, then it can be the good thing. It's sort of the easy thing is to find something that everybody can agree to point at. When you go back in history, you can find it wasn't religion. Then it was the black people. Then it was the Jews. Sort of it was you need something to point at. And Islam as a religion, as a generic. It's not even Islam as a religion. It's Islam as a generic term for anything that is not Danish. And it's completely sort of off the point, and
Totally.
For a lot of people, a lot of politicians from different parties, but supported by a lot of people around the country, they find comfort in that because they can see that's the one sort of scapegoat they can identify, because it's too difficult for Danes, for the tribe, to see whether you're Pakistani, whether you're Turkish, whether you are Iranian or whatever. It's just easy to say you're Muslim.
I know, but it's an educated population. I mean, 100% Danes have been to school, they read newspaper, they travel a lot, and still when they say Denmark versus Islam, one is a nation, another is a religion. You can say Christianity versus Islam, or Denmark versus Pakistan or Turkey. So it's a strange dilemma for actually, you know.
Yeah. A strange dilemma, and I agree completely. It's completely off the mark, and what some of the different ethnic groups could do, because is that if the Muslim community, if you say that, is that if you want to change it, these groups have to take charge on that, and start to change it, and say, well, and start framing themselves as we the Pakistani community, we the Turkish community, and
Pakistani Danes or
Pakistani Danes, and start practicing it, because it will only happen if enough people start pushing it
and raise their voice.
Yeah, and then of course at a sort of and you try to influence experts and some politicians to do that as well. We just recently we're having the discussion in Denmark about the word Negro.
That's true.
Which is just it is the same thing, and a good example of that kind of what language you use, what specific words you use. It comes out of sort of not the right people, but some people pushing it and insisting and doing it, and that it's a tough challenge for different ethnic groups.
I know a lot of bishops and many priests who are working diligently to create a good atmosphere. You know, they go and give lectures, they make events, and you work with the Dansk Folkekirke, Danish church. Why is this contradiction? On one hand, there's a large sector of priests and bishops who are, but then you also have a large network of anti-Islam priests in Denmark, in Folkekirke, you know. Why? I mean, Christianity is a beautiful religion. Why to have this contradiction?
Well, that is the whole point of the Danish church, national church, is in fact to embrace all kinds of sort of that diversity, and there is a huge diversity, and that has been one of the points. And when previously we talked about sort of Danes being very tolerant and open-minded, and sort of the Danish church has always been based on that it should be able to embrace all kinds of people. And all kinds of Christian denominations, and it has also always done that from sort of the very fundamental interpretations to the very liberal interpretations, but even that has been challenged because sort of the former minister of the church, Manu Sareen, he was the one who went ahead and got a ritual for same-sex marriage, for gay marriages in church, and that one thing caused a divide in the church, because some said, well, I cannot accept that, then I will make my own independent church. So a lot of members of the church sort of left because of that. So others joined because they were happy to see it, but some even left. So that is why we have that broad sort of that very.
And do you think it's good to have that diversity?
Yeah, but it also means that sort of there's very strict limits as to what the church can do in public, because they have to sort of cover and embrace very different people, and that is also why the church as an institution can never really take an active part in the debate about integration, about the Muslim community. But a lot of individual pastors and churches, they can take initiatives among themselves, but the church as an institution is not able to do that.
On your Facebook, I noticed that you have shared a post from Danish Refugee Council, where Anders Lidegaard is the Secretary General of Red Cross, I think.
Yeah.
He's looking out of the window and feel very sad seeing that asylum seeker will be living in snow and cold atmosphere in tents. Why did you share that?
If I remember it, I can't really remember
it.
Because
now they are putting asylum seeker in tents.
I'm just trying. I'm just trying to remember the post. I believe that what puzzled me there was that it was sort of the decision to use tents. I don't oppose that decision as such because the same tents, the same conditions are used in refugee camps in far colder places. So as an emergency accommodation, I have nothing against it. There was nothing emergency.
But you felt pity that they...
but the point is that when it was decided here, there was no emergency because there were other accommodation possibilities available, and in that sense, it looked more as a demonstration, sort of as the government proving a point that we don't stay away, sort of. Please don't come. We will make your life miserable, and sort
that
of,
is what I understood. The message.
And that is not sort of. I didn't see the point because why show that kind of attitude? I simply don't agree with that kind of attitude.
And then that brings me to this question, because when I speak with Muslim communities, who practice their religion, more or less. They sometimes don't understand that Danes, when they talk about Denmark as a Christian country, do not practice what Jesus told them to practice, love thy neighbor, And there they forget very quickly that beautiful message. Why Danes, which is, predominantly a Christian country, even if people don't practice their religion, but in schools and in churches and in our history in Denmark, why are we leaving Christianity on the side?
Well, I don't think people are leaving Christianity aside, and I think all of us are leaving Christianity aside every day because in that sense, if you take a more theological debate about it, then we are all sinners every day. I can already today I have broken a couple of commandments probably. So in that sense,
but not intentionally.
No. Well, one of them even intentionally, I would say. I had to talk bad about another person at a specific, and that is not love thy neighbor, so to say. So I think we do that every day, and in that sense, nobody is perfect. So I don't think people are forgetting being Christian as such. I think it's more being afraid of the alternative, because if you don't understand or understand an alternative, understand a change that is going on, then you are rejecting it, then you are pushing it away until you know better, and then
no problem. We can take the debate some other time.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, Michael, for coming.
You're welcome.
And I'm sure that our viewers have enjoyed what Michael said and have learned a lot from what I've said. Until next time, take good care of yourself.